Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. We had a packed day yesterday, bringing you exclusive interviews and content right here on the live stream, and we'll be doing it all again today. With me throughout is Chinmay Nair, a partner from our Swiss GBS practice. Good morning, Chinmay. How was your day yesterday?
A very good morning to you too. It was just fabulous. And the awards that we had last evening was just amazing.
It was lovely, wasn't it? It was so beautiful
great.
On the waterfront.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for having me.
Of course, a magical evening. With us in the studio now is our final plenary speaker of this year's conference, Emma Darby from Voice, who we are getting the privilege of speaking to ahead of your session. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you are going, I don't want to spoil too much, but you are going to be speaking to us about brand and innovation. And this is a real hot topic for this year's shared services. We had a lab on that on Tuesday, which was very well attended. So I do want to ask you a couple of questions about that. How did the rebranding from Vodafone Shared Services to Voice impact the relationship of the organisation to the rest of the business?
So at the time we rebranded, I just started, and having come from the business for 15 years and then moving into shared services, for me it was probably a stop moment and a reset in our journey to say we're actually looking at things differently. We want to work with you differently to what we've done before. We stopped referring to them as customers and started referring to them as partners. I think the rebrand was able for us to actually reset and go in a different journey and kind of branch off from what we had been on.
Great. And with brand comes culture.
Yes.
So what do you do within Voice to maintain and enhance your culture within the Voice environment?
So for us, it's really important that we still feel part of Vodafone. Ultimately, as a captive, that's the USP that we have against the competition, that we live, breathe, speak the Vodafone language, and it feels like we're together. So we take completely part in the Vodafone culture that's there and the spirit, which I'll talk a little bit about later. But we also have a level of uniqueness. So the uniqueness comes that we're in 8 centres with 30,000 people, and each of those centres has their own culture. And we make sure that we target that and that we use that so that they have a centre feel and a community within them. We use the brand and the spirit to really then go across all of the centres, and because we run global services, that then they actually feel as if they're working on something together. And one of our important brand statements and spirit statements is getting it done together. So we use that to basically bring it together quite cohesively. As Voice, we focus a lot more on the human. So it's all part of Vodafone, but we've created our own concept around 100% human to bring that to life. And it's something, as people interact with me, I find they bring it up quite a lot around this human aspect and the human centricity that we have brought to the organisation with that rebrand and the focus and the culture that we drive.
That's great, that's great. One of the themes that we are speaking about in the conference this year is innovation. Yeah. So firstly, how important is innovation for Voice, and what do you do to make sure that it's there, people are practicing it, and it adds value to the business?
So I think innovation is part of the lifeblood of Vodafone and actually falls into 2 of actually our spirit behaviours as well. Within Voice, we've looked at how do we bring that to life, and that innovation doesn't just sit with a small team, but how we can bring it to everyone. We have things like citizen development programmes, and even within my HR team, and people hate data and hate reporting, some person self-trained on Power BI, and then they've actually trained the rest of the team in Egypt to use it. And actually being able to use that then to talk about data in a very different way than HR previously would do. And for me, it's those really small moments of innovation that changes the mindset of the organisation and shows them that actually they can go beyond what they thought they could do, and that they have the power to come up with an idea and take it forward and to see the impact that that idea can have on the wider organisation. So it's really from those small innovative ideas that we're able to grow that culture and ensure that people see that they all can be part of it. It's not just for a certain team sitting in one part.
Oh, that's great. It's very cool to see how brand, innovation, culture, they're all mindset, they're all following. If I can take a leaf out of your strategy playbook, what do you think are those few important aspects which will help you succeed in the next couple of years?
I think it all comes down to recognising that we have to work as a total part of Vodafone and to deliver to the end customers of Vodafone that pay the bill, and that we do that together with the wider organisation, that we as a people business are all around our talent and how do we really develop the skills for now and the future, and that we make people feel as if they can grow their careers and their life as part of our organisation, and that we don't forget that the world around us is changing, which is a huge part of our brand, and therefore the technology will continue to play a key role in that, and that we also need to continue to transform, because we've all recognised the huge amount of changes that we've seen over the last few years, and that's just going to continue.
Great. You earlier mentioned about the size, which is huge. You spoke about your multiple centers, and it's important that all these cultures, all these centers, they have their own culture and they grow. How do you make sure that at some point in time that there's parity, they're all aligned with your vision, your organization's vision? So what do you do as a leader to make sure that they are all aligned?
We really stay true to kind of the strategy and the statements that we bring together. The way that we are now structured and into global verticals means that we want to recognise that each centre is different, but that people feel part of really the service that they're delivering. And therefore, whether that's being delivered from Egypt and India or all of our centres, that actually that's what brings people together to drive it forward. And therefore, when we are leaders and we're going out and we're talking, we stick to our strategy, that we constantly refer back to it, that we talk about the culture and the importance of driving that through the spirit of Vodafone, and that we ultimately come back to what is the business goals that we're here to achieve, and that we are actually having an impact on the wider Vodafone and being able to show that in the overall results.
I was going to say, so actually you've just triggered a thought. So yesterday, Deborah Cox talked about, breaking the status quo. And, she talked about those different levers, taking risks and leadership and, culture and brand and everything. How, in terms of taking risks as a GBS leadership organisation at Voice, what do you do to sort of make sure you've got that right balance between, driving incremental change, but also the risk-taking, transformative?
So there's two aspects of that. I think, for the 30,000 people, the majority of them don't really see a huge amount of change day in, day out. The work and the job that they're doing is fundamentally the same, and it may evolve incrementally, but it doesn't massively shift. But we equally need to recognise that we need to keep on transforming at the highest level, and that's where we as a leadership team really focus. And recognising that then there's a huge gap to talking about constant change and actually what people experience on the ground. And I think it's being open and honest and recognising that's hugely important. I think probably the biggest risk that we took as a leadership team, and one of the values we all hold, is that authentic leadership. COVID probably opened up everybody to be able to live a part of them, show a part of themselves that you weren't able to show before. And it's a huge value for us as a leadership team, and me personally, is that what we're asking people to do, that we equally show we're doing ourselves, and that we lead from doing rather than just by leading by saying. So I think there's the personal aspect as well as just in the organisation, recognising it and not standing still because people think there's too much change, but recognising for a lot of people there is a bit of a status quo in there as well.
Very good.
100%.
How does Vodafone Business see voice in their day-to-day operations? Is that an invisible organization which works seamlessly, or do they feel part of it's a support system? How does it work?
So Voice absolutely feels part of Vodafone, and for some of our biggest partners, they see it as a critical aspect of their wider business. We've got individuals that come out and see our centres on a regular basis, that they talk and refer to the impact that we have, particularly in the customer care lines where we're impacting the front line as well.
It's great.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Emma. That was a very insightful conversation. I'm really looking forward to your closing session.
Thank you.
Our studio expert from yesterday, Dorte Karlberg, is getting ready on stage to facilitate the Q&A of our 2 breakout sessions this morning on the main stage. The first session will be a bit different, as we have the joy of not 1, not 2, but 3 speakers. This year's HR panel will explore the plethora of changes facing the business and how to go about prioritising them. let's go back to the main stage.